What a great man. The almighty whitey. I wanted to capture some more Christmas lights tonight, but I just got my batteries put in and we're doing like so many things in one day. I'm gonna film some of these Christmas lights and those smaller neighborhoods where, like, you gotta think about it, like, if somebody really adores a particular house, even if it's really old and it's not expensive, but they've kept it really nice, it has a lot of sentimental value, and just like my grandparents' house. A lot of things were funky about my grandparents' house on my dad's side. The house was a little bit too close to the road, actually. But this particular road, for a long time, was a dirt road, and then had gravel later, and then it had pavement. And as soon as they put pavement down, people started speeding down it. But that was, from time to time, a problem already with the gravel. We're talking about country boys, high up on whiskey and all that kind of stuff. You're spinning gravel and blah 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 blah. This house had sentimental value because it represented a type of closeness that my grandfather had with his father. So that is my great grandfather Bailey. Now, I don't want to get into genealogy because I'm not an expert on the Bailey genealogy, and a lot of times somebody that has a particular interest in something like the Bailey genealogy is going to be somebody that's not a Bailey, or perhaps married to a Bailey. And in the case of our genealogy, they're called encyclopedias. And this guy had access to that kind of computer technology and programs before it was really made public. So anyway, that's his job. So he had a particular interest in finding out a lot of details about the Bailey family that go all the way back to the remaining Irish and Scottish Baileys that are living in Ireland and Scotland, that never left, that are related to the Baileys here in Mississippi. And I don't really know any Baileys outside of Mississippi. Haven't even met any, really. And the ones that I know here in Mississippi, although we are related, I have only a few times met some of them, and they're real nice people, but it's not a situation like you have a pretend to be close type relative relationship. Like sometimes, I called you, or I called your mom, and because, like, for example, I felt really close to a few aunts and cousins. For myself, I didn't call them frequently, but for the ones that are calling a relative frequently, even though they're not visiting frequently, and there's not that much interaction or even a development of a relationship, they still have a sense of closeness. So the way I felt, for example, like a Thanksgiving visit to some of the Bailey family down in Natchez, Mississippi. They had bought an antebellum home down there that Teddy Roosevelt stayed in for a time. And, Teddy Roosevelt had some health problems, and from the recommendations of his mother, who was very much a naturalist, which, in the 90s would be called holistic medicine, and then after that, Y2Ks, nutraceuticals, and then after that, it's, what do you call, I'm a vegetarian, but I still eat eggs and drink milk, blah, blah, blah. On and on. I can't do a seminar on it in one take. But for me personally, and my dad, and I could figure out later who was with us. I was probably 16 I may have been 17, but the dude had acquired a Jaguar that was passed around from like friend to friend and family, and it was a very well taken care of Jaguar. He showed us like how clean he was keeping the engine under the hood, you know, just degreased and just not a speck of dirt on it or even any grease showing, and how tidy he keeps that thing and how it sounded, and this kind of stuff really impresses me and I really like it. Even though like he just didn't wrap his arms around me, oh Paul, you know how much I love you, come see me anytime. Just like Dr. Bob Kahn said, you know, that's a southern nicety and it's an insincerity. But with the Bailey side of the family, there is a void of insincerity because they don't want to be that impolite. I'm going to be very frank with you, like my Uncle George Bailey. He was funny, he was witty, he was smart, he was interesting. I think he lived to be 96. I may be wrong. He may have lived longer than that. I met him in his 70s, and then in his 80s, and again in his 90s. I've only been around him maybe 4 or 5 times in my life, and for family reunion type things, you know, I met him in those situations, and he would just sit out on the porch just like anybody enjoying a family reunion, meeting all the grandchildren and great-grandchildren and great-great-grandchildren and cousins, and my dad he told me not to attempt to be real close to other Bailey relatives because these type of relatives are very high-thinking people and professional-oriented people, and they don't like clinging and hangers-on and needy people. You know, you got to be careful with that word needy. God bless him, Dr. Francis. He'd already passed away. He pulled up this word on me while he was giving me therapy before I had back surgery. I was getting physiotherapy. It's very painful. This guy's an Olympic athlete. He's strong as a goddamn mule, and he had some track records from. I think he had an English passport at one time. Perhaps he was. It's something weird, but he was an Australian with an English passport and was in the Olympics and broke some records for short distance running, sprinting, hurdling. Dr. Francis Nettles, and he's doing my physio. I had brought him into the club at Capital Club a few times for people that needed physio and did like a 50-50 split. He used my massage room. Just a real nice, very giving person. He sincerely wanted to help you. The 1,000 baht, whether you have it with you or you're gonna pay him next time, he was cool. Lovely man. And the same thing goes for Bailey relatives here in Mississippi. Now, they're not European, they're totally American, and really, you know, some of the best Americans I've ever met. And this house down in Natchez, Antebellum Place, was so beautiful. I just spent so much time wandering around, and various cousins from both the Bailey side of the family and the Gary side of the family, and also there was a few of the Gary side of the family there. Also, members of the family who had married a Bailey, even if that was their mother's maiden name. And just keep these things in mind, you know. I mean, it's not all about the name, right? I mean, you're blood relatives, and you have something in common, you have something to share, and there's a need for you to come together now and then and see how you're doing. I mean, you know, you don't want to hit somebody with your Shackley and Amway spill, but or, you know, the project that you're working on that could work. I mean, you know, just like any presentation anywhere, you need to, you know, mince your words and make sure the garlic is not drowning out the flavor of the meal.